G'day, welcome. Um, let's have a look at the year of Sam Walsh. And I'm doing this report card the morning of the John Nichols medal, which is on tonight. And I think that's going to be a really close count. I mean, we've pretty much been able to predict over the last few years who's going to win that medal. It's pretty much been out of Sam Walsh and Jacob Wiedering for the last couple of years, and Chuck and Cripper pre the last 2 years. But this year there seems to be some real competition, which is good. And it will be intriguing to see how Walsh goes tonight. I mean, he won it last year. He'll be top 5. Will he be top 3? Will he win it? Who knows? I mean, he had a super consistent season. Didn't reach the heights of last year, no doubt about that. But his role did change, and I'll get to that shortly. So let's just have a look at a few things with Sam before we get started. 22 years of age, played the 81 games now, 20 this year, super consistent as far as getting on the park in those 4 years at the football club. 22, 17, 22, and 20. Position, midfield, but it's changed a little bit. More of an outside midfielder, didn't attend as many centre bounces as he did last year. Started across half forward, went into the midfield, tried to escape his opponent. It's going to be really interesting to see how he's used moving forward. Will that now be the way they use Sam Walsh? Contract status 226 now. Well, it's a great little patch over the next 4 years. Where the club's heading. What's going to happen in 4 years now? Sign that deal on February the 7th, brings him up to free agency. I don't think he's going. He's fully. I don't know. It just feels like he's the type of player that's fully invested in the football club, vice captain, future captain, etc., etc. Anyway, pick 1 in 2018. We know that, but the interesting thing about that draft is he's the lone survivor from 2018. I don't know whether that's just, look at it, it's an observation error, or you can consider it a disaster, or I mean, does it really matter? Stocker now gone, pick 19. Finbar O'Dwyer, 66, he went in that draft, gone. Silvani, I mean, these are late picks, but still, you'd think at least one of them could be still around. Ben Silvani gone. Those two didn't play a senior game. Hugh Goddard, number 1 pick in the rookie draft, gone. Played a couple of games. And Thomas Bugg, he was gone before he even started, pick 19 in that rookie draft. So they're all gone. You look at Sydney, for example, they had 3 picks, and they got all of them right. And I know Blakey was a high draft pick, other than some, wasn't he? Yeah. But Rowbottom and McInerney are a little bit later on. And they're all playing, they're all integral young players in that Sydney mix. It's a decent observation to make, but I mean, we've got an absolute beauty in Sam Walsh. Season snapshot. It was around about mid-February. The reports came through that he twisted an ankle in match sim. The scans revealed syndesmosis, and we hate that. We don't like hearing syndesmosis now. It's like the dreaded ankle injury. It's no longer just a sprained ankle now. It's like syndesmosis. And there's this. Do we operate? Do we leave it? Is it 8 weeks? Is it 10 weeks? Is it... Anyway, they decided on surgery, and he was back really quickly. He missed a couple of practice games against St Kilda and Melbourne. He was knocking down the door to try and play round 1 against Richmond, but they decided against it, and he was back for the round 2 clash against the Western Bulldogs. He probably wasn't at his absolute best in regards to his running power early on. He's a little bit off the pace. It took him probably about a month to really start to get going. But he was back. It was an incredible turnaround considering how serious that injury has become. And he played right up until round 22. But there were reports of niggles late in the year. And his form did taper off somewhat, I thought. Winning the ball, but he wasn't just quite as effective. And, he was a laid out. There was rumours, that he was sore and he was a laid out for that round 23 clash against Collingwood. So he essentially went in with no Walsh, no Kennedy, no Hewitt. I mean, it's like three bloody good midfielders out of your mix. And he was replaced by Lockie O'Brien. Statistically superb, really. I mean, statistically he's had a big year. I mean, there's a few little areas that he didn't probably quite reach the standards that we would like to see from him, and he'd probably like to see from himself. But disposal-wise, elite 32, handball 17.8, effective disposals 23%. When he handballs the ball and when he's got time, he's really good. Uncontested possessions, he's become elite in that area of the game, and that's the area we want to use him. And we want to be a little bit more effective, uncontested player, though. And I think that's not an issue. I just think that's what he needs to keep working on. Above average in inside 50s, contested possessions 11.5. So he's got a nice balance between uncontested and contested. He can still find the ball on the inside. Clearance is 4.4. Most of those clearances, though, were stoppages around the ground rather than from the. I think he averages one centre clearance a game. Score involvement 6.3 and pressure acts 22, which is above average. Average in kicking efficiency. We know that. It's not the best part of his game, and it never has been. And I feel like there's a lot of bomb kicks around the corner. High bomb kicks. Centre clearance is 1.6, shot at goals. It just didn't hit the scoreboard this year. So it didn't have the impact. Started at half forward, went into the centre, tried to lose his opponent, but just couldn't. I mean, he kicked 5-7 for the year and he kicked 12-6 last year. And I know he played more games last year, but he just didn't seem to be as effective forward of centre. Tackles 3.3. Best games. Took a while to get going, as I said. Wasn't that he was poor when he came back, but he was a little bit off the pace. But in round 5, he really got motoring. It's happened to be, and this is where I see his leadership potential. Out, did his hammy against the Gold Coast. Under a little bit of pressure, we needed to bounce back against Port at the MCG, and he had 38, just 20 of 8 uncontested possessions, and he was like unbelievable in that game. But I thought his best game, and clearly his best game for the year, and I thought when you really look at it from a team point of view, I think it was our best performance. When we dismantled Fremantle at Marble. And there was a lot of hype at the time surrounding the season of Brayshaw and also Caleb Sarong, that sort of double punch youngsters sort of coming through at Fremantle. And Walsh just thought, nah, I'm not having that. And I think it was his second quarter in that game. I know he had 40 for the game, and he just ran them off his feet. But his second quarter was something to behold. He just destroyed Fremantle. Clearly his best game for the year. I say worst games. I mean, he had 13 games this year where he had 30 more disposals, and he never dropped under 25 for the year. Just think about that for a second. Did not drop under 25. But I think there's no doubt that his output, I suppose his effectiveness dropped towards the end of the year. Eagles not great, 25 touches. And then the Brisbane and Melbourne games, before he went out with that back soreness, he just didn't look right. He went 27 and 27, but he didn't have any real impact on the game. So clearly carrying something. And when Sam Walsh misses through soreness, that it's impeding him. I mean, he wants to play. He's a competitor. Strengths, accumulator. Mention those stats in regards to finding the pill. He's super consistent. never really plays a poor game. Running power, particularly his endurance. I don't think he quite got the speed back this year. Got run down a little bit this year, I thought, in games. Just run down. Was he trying to do a little bit too much at times? But he's definitely got great endurance. Never question his courage and his mental strength. Got a nice balance. Um, what is he? What are they wanting to be? But he's got that. He can find the ball on the inside, and obviously they want him to play a more uncontested possession game style. But he can do both. Which way does he go? What does Voss really want out of Sam Walsh moving forward? He's a great leader. Already building that resume as far as being the next captain of the football club. I actually have him, just listening to him and watching him on the ground, I have him actually in front of Jacob Wiedering. I really do in regards to leadership. That's just from the outside looking in. Weakness is he kicks that ball around the body. He bombs it around the body. So he's an outside player. They want him to play outside, but he gets those possessions where he's on the inside and he's under pressure. He bombs the ball. Decision-making at times can come under question, and impact forward of centre. Is he damaging enough, not just on the scoreboard, but bang for buck going inside forward 50 with the type of game that we want Sam Walsh to play? We want the ball in his hands because of his running capacity, but does he hurt the opposition by foot? One word, machine. Didn't reach the heights of 221. Had some issues. He was fourth in the Brownlow last year with 30 votes, which would have won it this year. Would have won it this year? Who could they get? Was it 29 or 30? Anyway. An All-Australian last year, made the squad this year. So he's backed up with another super consistent season, but didn't reach, and he hasn't needed to, because we now have a more rounded midfielder. I think the balance of everything really was on the shoulders of Sam Walsh and Patrick Cripps for too long. Elevated to the vice captaincy. Listen to the turtle over here making a little bit of noise. Elevated vice captaincy with Wiedering. So, yeah, I think does that take a little bit of focus away from his playing as well, considering he's so young? I don't think so. I don't think it would affect him. I've given him an 8.5 out of 10. I thought he played at about 9.5 out of 10 last year. With his game as an outside midfielder, does he need more space? Do we need to give him more space to be more effective? Do we sometimes still ask too much of him? Or ask him to do too much? Or is that just him? The thought of having Cripps, Kennedy, Chera, Walsh, Hewitt consistently on the park together finally is mouth-watering, really. Is mouth-watering. We didn't quite get it for after about round 4 or 5, getting them all on the park together and chuck in Fisher there as well. He's become, part of that rotation as well. It's hard to us. I don't know. Like when I think about Sam Walsh, because it feels like he's so driven. It's almost like at times he coaches himself. But I think it's like, I feel like we need to get his position right. Get it right. Still needs, I think, a fair bit of guidance, and he's still learning the game as a midfielder and as an AFL footballer. But he's only in his 4th year. I think it's just another really consistent season. Tell me what you think about the year of Sam Walsh. Will he win the best and fairest tonight? Will he go back-to-back in the John Nichols medal? Tell me what you think. Speak soon.